like I need to understand it more, and I feel like I'm gonna end up saying the same with NFTs that I said about crypto. That I come in it a bit too late, and I just was waiting to understand it. I'm someone that I like to understand things from A to Z, like before I step into it. Because I'd say I'm risk adverse, which is great until you miss out on the 10x and the 100x and all of that stuff.
But nah, I don't even think it's a problem, like, because you got your thing set. You know what you do. You're very top and you're very proficient.
I'm niche. I'm like, do you know what? I don't really like to take a lot of risks. I like to specialize. I like to focus on what I do. And what I do is property. And that's why this is the Property by Kazy podcast. Each and every week we've got a special guest. Today I got Poku. What you say?
It's Poku Banks, baby. Let's get
come on, look, he's even got his own ad lib. How can a man have his own ad lib? But you're 21, right?
Yeah, 21.
And a lot of you maybe in the property space wouldn't be as familiar with Poku, but I wanted to get him on today because we wanted to bring some diversity to this podcast. And what he does, and he's going to speak about what he does, but I like his background because it's all about kind of financial education, financial literacy, and financial responsibility at a younger age. So, Poku, if you can tell the people a little about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Poku Banks. What I like to do is teach people in my generation, Gen Z, about personal finance and entrepreneurship and investing. The reason I do this is because school doesn't teach them this. So I felt like I'll be the one to fill in spots. I do that, I go to University of Nottingham, I study finance, accounting and management, and I trade currencies. So that's what I do.
Nice. Like one of the first places I saw you, I think, like, you know, I'm that bit older, so I saw you on Instagram, but I know a lot of your Instagram content was kind of like repurposed from your TikTok, and your TikTok is where you kind of blew up and you built a big following on TikTok and in that space.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've recently started using TikTok, like I'm talking like in the last month, and I was like, it's mad addictive. But the algorithm's so much better than Instagram. Like you discover new stuff and new people.
You know what's funny? I don't even like to use TikTok because, like you said, it's mad addictive.
Super addictive.
And I feel like I have too many apps on my phone. Like I've got Instagram, I've got Snapchat, and adding TikTok to it, it's just like you won't be productive.
It's just too much.
But I just go on there to post and I come off literally. But TikTok is what really brought me to where I am to get today.
Yeah, to be able to put out obviously that financial literacy and that kind of information. Because like I said, I just first found you and you were putting out videos explaining about, you know, why you wouldn't finance a car at a certain amount, or why it might be better to buy a property this way or a house this way, or buy, you know, a pair of trainers this way and that way. And I think somebody putting out like financial information in a way that you do, and it's like sort of bite-sized, digestible content, like is the way we currently consume content. And I think you found a niche that you do it, because when I was trying to do it, I'm not gonna lie, I see every time I speak to somebody, and I might speak to Tej from like Tej Talks, or I might speak to the guys from Dungar Property. When I see people do stuff well, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna take a bit of that and bring that into my business. And I tried to make like the bite-sized content the way you do, and I just couldn't. So it's really, I don't know. Like I said, it's just, you know, everyone's got a skill set, and you just found a way to deliver it. But so what, like, obviously you said like you want to obviously share that financial literacy, but what's the importance of it? Like what does that do like for that Gen Z? Like why did you think that was important?
Well, I feel like for me, when I was leaving school, I kind of realized, wait a minute, I'm about to leave school with not knowing anything about investing, not knowing how I'm going to get a house or get a mortgage. I don't know nothing about debt yet. All of us will get into debt at some point in our lives. So I took out my own to, you know, be self-sufficient and seek this information because school didn't teach it. I do believe that we should know, because you'll realize with the younger generation, they're banging up Klarna, you know, using debt to not for the right reasons. You know, you use it for good debt to get houses, mortgages and whatnot to make money. People are using it, they see it as free money, they see overdrafts as just free cash. Yeah, I feel like this should be taught, because if we're being, you know, told, oh, you can get overdraft at uni, but they're not telling you how exactly it will be used. How
it's going to affect your credit rating, or how like the utilization. You're right, because I remember university, that saying of it seems like free money.
Yeah.
It's super like, because like I think there was like no interest or really low interest from student overdrafts. You just see it as well, like they just gave me some free money.
It's just extra P's, and nah, it's not that. So that's why I feel like I need to be that guy, just to tell you guys, especially when they see me, oh, he's the same age as me, and he knows this. I should know this. I should be keeping up. So I feel like it helps that way. Whereas, yeah, there are older people that do what I do, but I feel like I speak directly to my audience, Gen Z, and they understand it and take it.
No, definitely, because it's I think like you said, when somebody like who's your peer or your age mate that is doing something that you're not doing, it's very difficult to make that excuse of, but they're older, or but they did it. Because if I start saying it and I've got 10 years on you, it's just like, well, I'll do it when you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
But obviously, if you're saying it to them, then it's more like, it's more relatable, which is the same reason why sometimes, like, I've got some of my interns that come down to the sites and I get them to talk about, and they're like 12, 13, but I get them to come and do some of the YouTube content because I want a 12, 13-year-old isn't going to be interested in what I've got to say, but if they see somebody who's their age doing it, it's a lot more relatable for them, and hopefully it'll inspire a lot more people to get involved in property investment at an early age. I think you're spot on with what you're saying.
I like those videos that you do with the 12.
We should do more. Yeah, no, do you know what? I keep meaning to do more. We actually had one, shout out Southport Media, but they deleted my footage by accident. So we're going to have to film. Southport Media might be in the building now, and I might be looking at the person who lost my footage. But luckily, they're such a great videographer. They've confirmed they're going to come back and they're going to film another one. But yeah, we had a couple out, but definitely want to put more out because they're great boys. The boys from K&K Car Wash, they do amazing work. Like the questions they asked me, one of the reasons why we first got them on, was because I was going, I think I can't remember what I was doing, but I was speaking to one of their mums, and they were just asking, as every mum would say, if you work really hard, you're gonna be successful like Uncle Kazy and do property. And then he started asking me stuff like, yeah, but what's your gross development value of the project, and are you gonna rent or are you gonna refinance? And I said, this is how do you know all of this? This is crazy. So I said,
big boy words.
Yeah, no, they were the sick questions were so serious and so in depth to the point where you could tell they had an actual interest. I was like, when you see that level of interest, you can't help but not think that I need to nurture this because you could be something special. And I think so most recently now, I now sponsor a football team called Most Wanted Elite. They're sort of age from the age of 12 to 17, but I was it was after kind of teaching those guys that I thought, you know what, this is something that we can do and roll out, because we get taught in school to be competitive when it comes to sports, but not necessarily the same when it comes to education and financial literacy. So where I had a friend that had a football team that was doing really well and having players sign for elite clubs, I was like, look, I don't want it to get to the point where they're there and somebody else is telling them how to invest their money, or they're not even thinking about investing. If we work with them at an earlier stage, and those that are fortunate that can go out there and are in the top 1% of earners, already know how to invest money, and those that maybe don't make it have the relevant skill set to transition into another vocation.
Yeah, no, most definitely. That's very, very needed, because just in case, God forbid, they don't make it, they can at least go elsewhere.
They can do so much other stuff, because that's the other thing. As a community, there's often a bit of a stigma that, we want to be footballers or rappers, but there's so much else. And the funny thing is, the rappers, a lot of the time, don't get paid as much as the business people. Yeah. And, every footballer's on a wage. They're being paid by somebody. So
how I see it, I want to be the guy that's able to pay the rappers or able to pay the footballers. But yeah, I feel within the ethnic minority community, they just feel it's only rap or football is the only way out. But
I don't say only, but I would say to give credit to us as a community, I would say that we're diversifying what we're doing, but I definitely think there's still a centralized focus on those career paths, which. Because another reason why I was do you know what, I need to speak to this guy and I want to get him on board was for a few reasons. Was because you started learning all this stuff, but there's often, particularly at a younger age, there's a mentality of, I've learned this and I want to keep it for me. Yeah, do you know what I mean? I've learned this and I want to have all the secrets. Yeah. But why did you feel that, do you know what, I want to learn this and I want to share it?
No.
Didn't you feel you sharing it was going to maybe impact your success?
Nah, because at the end of the day, I have an abundant mindset of the fact that knowing this even benefits the small ecosystem already anyway. So everyone making money, it'll come full circle in the future, because if I teach you how to educate how to do your finances and whatnot, you may start a business that may impact other people around the world, and it's like a big chain of events. So me making one video may influence someone to start a business, and then that business might have helped other people within the community. So again, keeping it to yourself, I feel that's a scarcity mindset. I mean, you don't get any farther of that, because again, I mean,
Yeah.
what are you doing keeping stuff that we should know? Because
Yeah, and also the thing is that all these people that you're helping are people that potentially you can do business with or can help you in the future. It's just you don't do it for the favor for a favor, but it's you never really know. You're building your own, like, when people say obviously your network is your network. If you're building a network of people that have that same abundant mindset, then you can grow with them.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I just see it as like, I believe in good karma per se. So like, if you're doing good for the world, I believe it'll always
It will come back full circle.
So yeah, just literally fill in the spot that school doesn't. So just letting them know.
And then like linking it back into property, one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on is, one of the questions people often ask me is like, I'm 16, I'm 17, I'm 18, I'm 25, or even older. But like, I don't know where to get started in property, or I don't know how do I start saving? And I think your videos are really important because before you start investing, one of the best ways to make money is by actually looking at your own personal budget, your own personal finance, how you manage your own money. So coming from you, like what are some of the hints and tips that you've had in terms of that you could share with us today around that money management space or around saving or using your capital efficiently?
Yeah, so like you said, the best way to see more money is literally looking at your own finances, looking at where you maybe spend a little bit extra. So maybe some people spend a lot of money on Uber Eats, just spending extra money that isn't really necessary. So if your goal is to get into property and whatnot, have a goal and decide, okay, cool, if I can cut down on this much expenses, I'll save this much per month. But one thing I will say though, there's only so much you can save because again, I don't want you guys to start living like you're homeless, okay? So then you have to increase your income. So simply getting a 9-to-5 job is one of the most easiest ways to start getting some money. You can save it up and then eventually you want to look to then invest your money into either a LISA or into a stocks and shares ISA. The reason I mentioned LISA, I'm pretty sure you know what LISA is, but it's a lifetime ISA where you can then put up to around £4,000 per year and the government will add the 25% bonus onto that. So that can then be used towards your deposit, an early deposit. So again, the government is giving you extra money to then put towards your first house deposit. That's a no-brainer. So again, have a plan and then look at your budget and then you should be able to make it.
Yeah, I think that's it. And I think there's so many ways that, you can add to what you're doing. So whether it's a case of, if you're not already working, obviously going to work is a good way to start making money. Once you're working, it's looking at what you can do in your spare time. There's a lot of jobs now have a lot more flexible time or work from home hours where as long as you're getting your job done, that you can work on other vocations. And I've seen you talk about different things and different ways that you can make money outside of your 9-to-5.
Yeah, so outside your 9-to-5, the reason I believe everyone should at least try a side hustle is because you may enjoy it so much that you might make that your full-time thing and it may become a passion of yours. So this could be buying and reselling. This is where you're buying stuff and sourcing stuff for a low price, selling it for a higher price, simple business. You can get into that. There's shoe reselling. There's Amazon FBA. Amazon FBA is a new business model where you can now become Jeff Bezos' business partner by simply sourcing products from Alibaba and whatnot, sending it to the Amazon warehouse, and then they'll fulfill it for you. So they're shipping it out to you. And again, how I see it with Amazon FBA is like, as long as Jeff Bezos is getting rich, you're bound to get rich alongside with him.
So for those, so Alibaba is like a
Chinese wholesaler.
Chinese wholesaler where you can buy stuff. It's obviously you're buying it directly from the manufacturer in Asia, and then you're able to you're buying it, and then the good thing about Amazon FBA is the logistics and the oversight and a lot of the integral parts of a business are run for you by Amazon, and effectively what you're doing is investing in the product itself.
Yeah, exactly.
So again, it's like an investment strategy where you're saying, look, you're aiming to buy low and sell high, but you have a support mechanism of the biggest company in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why.
And then an easier way, if you may feel like that's a little bit too technical, then there's simple Facebook Marketplace. People on there giving away stuff for free or selling stuff for very, very low prices where they don't really know the true value. Someone may sell a couch for way cheap because they just want it gone straight away. They want it gone quickly. So that or car boot sales, you want to go there, get stuff for low, and again, you can resell on eBay, make some extra profit on the side while alongside the 9-to-5, and this will take your income to the next level, and then you can go get that house.
And I think, for a lot of people, it's just looking at how efficiently you can use your time. Particularly, I think there's this weird paradox in that at a younger age, Like, obviously, I don't know how you feel now because you're in university and you were saying you were doing coursework today and it was stressing you out, you're running late, or coming here because you had to finish it off. But paradoxically, I remember being at university and having all the time in the world in comparison to now. Like, and you might not feel like that, but when you're young, you have way more time. But going forward in life, going full circle, the more successful you get, generally the busier you get. And then what you're actually working for is to work backwards and get back to a point where you can employ loads of people and have more time. Because when you're really successful, what you want is to have as much free time as possible because you value your own time, because your time is the most valuable commodity you have. So ironically, when you're young, you have what's most desirable to that person who's really successful. So if you can use that time at an early age to maximize, it's like you're hustling forwards in preparing yourself for where you want to get to.
No, most definitely. I understand, like, you guys want time freedom, and that's a difference to financial freedom. But one thing I also want to add on to that is the fact that with us young people, just want to mention that you guys have at least 10 businesses you can fail and you still, can make it somewhere by the time you're 30. When you're young, you don't have, compared to me and you, I don't have a mortgage to care about. I don't have responsibilities like, cousins and families and nephews to feed. I don't have all these responsibilities on my plate, so I can afford to go broke a few times and still make it by the time I'm 25, 26, 30. So whereas when you're older, more responsibilities come and it becomes, you can't take as much risk. So that's why I say, take the risk. Why are you not getting onto the property ladder? Why are you not going out your way to develop another source of income? Because again, the only way it can backfire on you, actually, in fact, it can't backfire on you personally.
Because it's also a lot of it is, even if a lot of people have done a lot of businesses that haven't ended up being like lucrative financially, but where the value comes in is that they learn like life experience, they learn business experience through taking these businesses from A to Z or from point A to point B, and that is maybe more valuable than the profit they got from the business because they use that to turn their next business, which is an even better idea, into something that's really successful and can allow them to maybe invest in a type of asset class that they want to invest in, whether that be property, crypto, NFT, stocks and shares, gold, or any other sort of asset class.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I think Mark Zuckerberg talks about why he loves making mistakes now. So even if you were to fail in any sort of business at a young age, it's the wisdom that you get for that. The losses that you took from that mistake is the cost of gaining that wisdom. So again, when it comes to making mistakes, see it as not an L, not a loss, but a lesson from it. And then you can then take that on further to your next business.
Definitely. And then, so you speak about Gen Z a lot, and I know you and a business partner, right?
Yeah.
I've got Gen Z Club.
Yeah, Austin and Denzel Jones. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I've met Denzel. I don't think I've met Austin, but yeah, good guy as well. So speak to me a little bit about Gen Z Club. What's Gen Z Club?
Simply, Gen Z Club is a hub of opportunities for the Generation Z, our age group. This is people born between 1997 and 2012. So people that grew up with social media, people that grew up with the internet. And essentially,
that is so crazy to me that people born in 2012 are out there thinking, I'm old now.
Yeah,
right?
actually, to be fair,
we might have to cut this podcast. He's making me feel real old right now.
No, to be fair, we don't have any 2012 babies at our events, but it's just
But that's your age group. That's who's defined as Gen Z.
Yeah, and essentially, it's a hub of opportunities where we are trying to bring people together to then network with each other and take yourself to the next level. They say you are 7 contacts away from anyone around in the world. So again, when I was getting started, when it came to entrepreneurship and whatnot, networking events for my age group weren't really a thing. We had to make our own ones and just unofficial ones. But now I'm trying to make them for the people that are looking up to me now. So I'm trying to make it with the one we had on Friday, we had around 120 people, 120 Gen Zs coming together with all business ideas and hustles, all come together to network and introduce themselves. Like I say, you're one conversation away from becoming rich. So again, you never know who you will meet out there. So that's why we made that, just so it's a hub of people that can come together and just.
I think that's super. Like, do you know what? For me, like, I don't know about other people watching this. Like, obviously, people that are in my age group, people older than me or around it. But like, I'm excited to hear that. I'm like, what, you lot are because you're 21,
Yeah,
you're 21, and you're the one that's bringing this together. But a lot of the people are younger than you in there, and you said it was on a Friday.
Yeah.
On a Friday, so people are taking their Fridays off when they could be going out, could be hitting the club, could be doing all sorts of nonsense. But you lot are networking and talking about business. So I definitely think, definitely hit up Poker and find out more about that if you are within that bracket, because. Or if you're not within that bracket, and a lot of people would have kids, like, you know, people that are following this would have kids within that bracket, and that's an opportunity, because I don't actively do loads of networking and loads of mentorship, but people are always asking me, you know, about how could potentially they get their children involved in other stuff. So I think that is a really good opportunity and somewhere that you can bring people into. Secret. I may be, obviously they said I'm old, like, so I can't be part of Gen Z, but I might be coming down to talk at one of them at some point. So see, follow the boy, and he's definitely gonna let you know
Gen Z club.
about what's going on over there. So pause. Listen, the more you subscribe, the more you got those notifications on, the more you comment, the more exclusive content that we can make for you. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Cost you nothing. So obviously we spoke a lot about, like, today I wanted to really be about like personal finance and saving and how you can use saving to leverage getting into property. But I know we spoke briefly and you said you had some experience in rent to rent.
Yeah, so this is my first year of uni now. Actually, in year 13, I'm doing my A-levels, and I'm seeing this Airbnb arbitrage thing on Instagram. I'm thinking, what's that? But then eventually, over the summer, after doing my A-levels, I looked into it. I'm thinking, wait a minute, I can rent a house and then rent out each day individually. So I could rent a house, sublet it out, and rent out each day individually and make profit. And the numbers, when you look at the numbers, it just looks perfect. But then after doing more research, and you find out that you need to get, the occupancy rate needs to be high, you need all this stuff, and the service has to be great, the reviews need to be good, the pictures need to be great. So I got into service accommodation. I got into that. I started in my first year of uni. I got my first rent to rent after like a few months of asking landlords. So in January 2020. Now obviously, when you look at the timelines, March 2020 comes and COVID, kalas. So that really hurt the industry and it hurt my profits. But luckily, I think what I did, I had to get a couple and I got them to rent the place for like 3 months. And then if you remember that year, there was then eat out to help out or something like that.
Yeah.
That's when it started cooling down. But then that August, I had, I wouldn't say 3 parties back to back, but so I think the Saturday, there was a party. And the reason I found out about that is because my cleaner was on Instagram and someone was on Instagram Live, you know, recording,
In your house?
Yeah, in my service account, in my Airbnb. So I'm thinking, wow, crazy. And obviously, it's in an apartment building, so the walls are thin and
Yeah, so your complaints and your
complaints are
issues.
going. And I think the Sunday there was it was a music video but like a party as well, like both at the same time. And then the Sunday was this is an event, but there was just lots of foot traffic, and you hear it like
Yeah.
lots of, and again, more
Just
complaints.
also like from the other two, people are already annoyed from the first 2 days, and
Yeah.
it was just like, nah, it's too much now.
Yeah, so then they had to, the estate agents like, you know what, you gotta give the property back, let's just call it a day. But no, that was a very, very good experience that I had with rent to rent. Will I get back into it though? Probably not. And the reason I say that is because rent to rent, at first I thought, yeah, I'm cool, I'm a property manager, I got this Airbnb, but then I realized I just run a business. I don't earn any equity. I'm just renting, you know, I'm just a property manager per se. I'm not an investor. I just run a business. It's not that. So in terms of me in the future of me getting back into property, firstly, I want to focus on building my income first. Once I build my income, and especially I think you'll agree with this, but as a self-employed entrepreneur, it has to be top. Like the taxes needs to be all in check to make sure you get the mortgage and whatnot. Build my income up first, and then I think what I'll probably get into is what you do, developing. So get a house up north, and it doesn't have to be up north, but you know, get a house up.
We're looking to buy something to add value to it, and turn it around.
Start recycling my money, just keep that going. So I think for me, that's the way personally, and the guys everyone getting involved. I think that's the way personally. Others talk about doing buy to lets and whatnot. I hear it, I see where they're coming from, but like in my opinion, you know, just to make £400 a month, and I feel like adding value and potentially taking all your money out, that sounds attractive to me.
That sounds so like the BRRR strategy and things like that. I think one thing you touched on, I'll go back to your experience in like rent to rent, or we'd call it like rent to rent, like the SA models, the serviced accommodation. And I think it's important you spoke about like the losses in it or the downside, because a lot of people talk about it and make it sound like it's plain sailing. You buy somewhere, you rent somewhere and you're renting it out for £1,000 and you're renting it out for £150 every day. You're making, £3,000 plus profit. But at the end of the day, it is like, especially if you're trying to rent it out for where the biggest markup is, like on the one day, the one day overnight, that it can easily turn into parties and turn into, other issues. So I think people have to think about a way to kind of like protect themselves. So a lot of people I know now do like minimum days, 3 stays, like 3 days, which puts people off wanting to book it for the one day party. Also, like you mentioned that delivering that level of service, which I think you touched on briefly, but obviously having like maybe your cleaning team that do your check-ins and check-outs and inspections and just make sure that everything is supposed to be and it is tip top. But I think, just the episode before this we shot was with Stephanie Taylor, and she speaks not so much about rent to SA, but rent to HMO and her experience of it. And same with the guys from Video and Properties. So I think for anybody that's looking to get into rent to rent, those are 2 really good episodes. I'll make sure we put the link below actually for those 2 episodes. You can go back and watch those 2 because they have a lot of information about rent to rent. I'm just like I said, I'm refreshed to hear, that, somebody of your age that you've been thinking about it from, like you said, sort of the age of 17, you've been thinking about your financial, your financial future and what it means to prepare from an earlier age, because it's like developments, like everything you do from a young age is your foundations. And then as you grow, you're building on them, but having solid foundations, like having a good credit score, is building relationships with the banks, with lenders, etc., are all going to mean that you can excel quicker, in the future. I think we're also going to make sure that we put the link down below to the Gen Z Club. So for those that are interested, can find out directly where to find Poker and potentially get involved in some of your events. You said you got a few coming up in the next sort of like Q1, Q2 of 2022. There's one question we always ask everybody. It's slightly different for you because you're not fully in the property space, but I still think it's really relevant. And normally the question's like, I want to get into property, like I'm 18, I'm 19, I'm 20, like what should I be doing now? And I still think, even though you're not in property, like how would you answer that question? What do you think somebody should be doing to prepare themselves for a future, in property at that age?
There's a few answers to that, but my first answer simply to have the characteristic trait of being self-seeking. Now, when I say self-seeking, it means you go out of your own way to go find out this information, because I feel like a lot of people trying to wait for it to fall in their lap, whereas all of this information is out there. Google and YouTube are your best friends.
True.
So I always tell people, go out of your own way to research. Okay, cool. Instead of asking someone of yourself, how should I get into it? Let me go and do the research myself and ask more specific questions. Oh, how do I get accepted for a mortgage? Let's start do the basic questions in Google. Let's leave that in 2021. Let's do all the basic questions in Google, and then you can ask the more professional questions and more niche questions to someone like yourself. I mean, you must get.
Do you know what? That's one of the best answers I've heard, because literally that thing of so many people don't know, like, what do I need to get a mortgage? Like, they have the idea that I want to buy a property this year, but don't know how much they can borrow, when, where, how, who to approach. Should I go to my bank? Should I go to a broker? And I think there is, like, Google is your best friend. Go out there, ask the easy questions. And when you've asked all the easy questions and you've got to a point where you now know what you don't know, and be in a position where you know what you don't know is an amazing place to be, because then you can now find that person with that specific information that can help you fill like those knowledge gaps. So I think that is definitely some great advice. This has been another episode of the Property by Kazy podcast with Mr. Poku Banks, with myself, Kazy from Property by Kazy. We are back each and every week with another episode. If you haven't already subscribed, I don't know what you're doing. Don't stop. Don't click off this video. Hit that subscribe button right now. If you've got any comments, questions, ask them below, and myself or Poku will come back to you. And make sure you like this video if you've enjoyed it. Peace.
In a bit. It's Poku Banks, baby.